Hello, everyone. Welcome to our panel discussion this evening. I am Stephanie Silvers, the CEO of Dress for Success Twin Cities, and we are so excited to have all of you join us tonight to help continue our conversations around racism, diversity, and inclusion in the workforce. And so, as an organization, one of the things we strive to do is ensure that all women are empowered and able to find financial stability through employment. And as being committed to serving all women, we really want to ensure we hear from all the different women who come through our program, who work with us, so we can start to learn and understand the different conversations out there and the different experiences. Because the only way we learn and grow is to truly learn and open ourselves up to what other people have gone through in their experiences. And so tonight, we are really hoping these conversations bring to light others' struggles and ways in which they have had to work through the world so that we as individuals watching can challenge our own lenses, can really look at our own journey and see where do we want to go. For me, that is looking at how do I show up and continue to be an anti-racist, not only personally, but professionally. And so tonight, leading this and to hopefully help us all lead into learning each other better and being better allies and support is Anna Beach, our development director. Anna, thank you so much for leading this discussion tonight, and take it away.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. I appreciate the intro. Tonight is going to be really exciting. I'd like to, first of all, just thank Stephanie for the wonderful introduction and sharing a little bit about her experience and her path to anti-racism. So thank you for that. And so tonight we will have Terryann Nash joining us. We also have a few women who have gone through different programs at Dress for Success joining us as panelists to really talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workforce as they've experienced it. And as Stephanie mentioned, the goal of tonight is to really keep the conversation around racial justice going, because we know that the media is not putting as much attention on the fight that is continuing because there's not as much going on in as far as it pertains to protesting and riots, but that doesn't mean that the work is done. So we want to ensure that we are doing justice to the women we serve. So we are making sure we continue to have these hard conversations and to hear experiences from women that we serve and really help to create change. So I just want to give a little overview of what tonight will look like. So I will start by introducing our wonderful moderator and our lovely panelists. We'll have a panel discussion. It'll be a Q&A. On your end, as a viewer, you have the option to post questions. We will kind of get to those at the end of our panel questions as we are able to, depending on time. And then the last piece will be talking about how we continue to move forward, because we want to make sure that what we're not doing is staying still. We want to keep moving and creating change, because something we've been saying a lot recently is that this is a marathon and not a sprint. So we are in this for the long haul, and the work has just begun. So I'd love to bring in Terryann Nash, our moderator for this evening. She is a diversity and inclusion trainer at her own business called Nash Inspired LLC. I will have her come in and tell us a little bit more about herself. This is a new platform for us, so it's really exciting to get this all nailed down. So thank you for your patience, everybody.
There we go. Can you hear me? Are we good?
I can hear you.
Okay. So as I mentioned, I started out at St. Paul College with certificate in American Sign Language, my AA degree there with nonprofit business as my focus, and then went over to Metro State, finished up with my bachelor's degree in human rights, adult training and development with a focus on American Sign Language studies, and I've recently finished up my master's degree in advocacy and political leadership with a focus in ADA studies, and again, working with the deaf and hard of hearing communities. And my focus with Nash Inspired is building economic equity in our communities and building bridges between our ADA communities and our hearing communities, our able-bodied communities. So I'm happy to be here, and hopefully we'll have a wonderful time talking about diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Terry, I'd love to be able to see you if you're willing to share your webcam. I think I just sent you a request. Just did it pop up on your screen? There we go. Hi. Look at us go. This is so fun. This is the first time I've ever used this platform before. So thank you so much for working with me on this. I appreciate it. So thank you for telling us a little bit more about yourself. You are just, your expertise in this area is so welcomed in this conversation. So I appreciate you taking the time to be here with us and sharing this experience. So next we will bring in our panelists and get the Q&A started. It'll take a second to bring everybody in. We got to request webcams. It's a thing. Hello, Bryn. Hello, Theresa.
Hello.
And then I will have, Bryn, I will have you introduce yourself a little bit while I try and work on getting our third panelist into the platform here.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
Wonderful. My name is Bryn Montello. I went through I came into Dress for Success by way of the Challenge Incarceration Program, otherwise known as boot camp at Shakopee Women's Prison, back in August of 2019. And when I graduated from boot camp, I continued to do, because we did volunteer work there as part of our incarceration. And then I chose Dress for Success Twin Cities as where I would continue to do my volunteer work. And I live in South Minneapolis, and describe myself as white, though I live in South Minneapolis. I feel very part of the community, and by being coming to the program through way of incarceration, I have kind of a diverse story. So I don't know if that helps.
Thank you so much for sharing, Bryn. I appreciate that. Theresa, it's wonderful to see you. Will you share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I grew up in the Twin Cities, so not a whole lot of exciting things there. But my background is Hispanic. My grandparents came here from Mexico, and at the time when they moved into the St. Paul neighborhoods, there was a petition going around to have them not be included, to not let them purchase the home that they were purchasing. And long story short, my grandpa ended up being best friends with the man who started the petition, who was his next door neighbor. So because they saw what a great man he was, a hardworking man, and he worked very hard to support our family. So my background, as far as my work background, I've been in the insurance industry for over, oh gosh, let's just say it's been early 80s. As I kind of just started. I started at as a file clerk, and I'm now an auditor for a startup company named Bind, and I love it there. It's just the most wonderful atmosphere and team they really promote teamwork and collaboration, and they're different. Their whole take on insurance is very different. It's a new way of doing healthcare. So I'm just really excited about it because I've been in the business for so long and saw the same old, and it's something different, and it's just really something to be excited about. So.
That's awesome. And I think it's been upwards of 2 years now since you've kind of finished the programming at Dress for Success. Isn't that correct?
Yes. I was laid off in January of 2017 from Medica, and I took the classes, and I actually went on a lot of it. I had never been on so many interviews before and not been hired. And so it was, I started to kind of worry, and then I had other people telling me, oh, you should, maybe it's your age, and because I'm, over 40, of obviously, well, not maybe obviously, but and it was very discouraging, and I set in my mind what my worth was based on, my skills and experience, and I said, I'm not taking anything less than that. And it just was a matter of getting in front of the right people at the right time, and people that recognized my skill and the value, of what I could bring, and the same thing. And then I ended up doing a little short project with Robert Half, and it was a great experience. And then that ended, and then that's when I sought out the company that I'm working for now, and it was like, it was almost like the job came to me. It was just that easy, and it's just the most perfect fit that I've had in my career. So, and the salary is beyond what I had set for myself. So I went from making my salary increased 38% since I was at Medica. So that's almost half, that's almost double.
Right. That's so fantastic to hear. And right now I am working, I think that I'm going to have Goddess, our third panelist, call my cell phone and have her talk over my cell phone, over my speaker. So what we'll be doing next, I'm going to work on multitasking and having her call me. We're gonna start these questions. And really what we want to highlight is that there are good experiences in the workforce, and there are also experiences that can really hurt. And we want to bring light to both of those things, because we know that there are some work environments that are really inclusive and fantastic, and then there are some that really need some work. So I think I have Goddess calling in right now. So we're gonna do this. Goddess, hello. Hello, let me turn up my speaker here. Okay, panelists, can you hear Goddess? Goddess, can you speak for me?
Yes, I can. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be a part of the panelists. I'm sad that I can't join you guys on my phone.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had no idea that this wouldn't be mobile friendly. So thank you for being resilient and working with me and doing this over my speakerphone. So,
Yes.
So I would love to, before we dive into the questions, now that I have you here, I'd love to get a little background on you and your professional experience and how you came to Dress.
Okay, very good. I'm pretty young. I like to believe that I'm one of the youngest folks in the room, usually when I'm in the room with the ladies at Dress. I actually got connected to Dress for Success by a community member, a community leader, and elder who is connected to Dress for Success and has been connected to Dress for Success for a very long time. Her name is Julie Jackson, also known as Ms. Jackson. Mm-hmm. And she basically told me that if I was ready to take life to the next level, I had to come to Dress for Success. She told me that Dress for Success pretty much had everything that I needed in order to take it to the next level professionally and to do whatever it was that I needed to do to get the skill set that I needed to figure out a way to make more money in the workplace. I was underemployed and definitely looking for different opportunities. I met Julie Jackson through doing community work, and that's pretty much how I got my name out. I have always been really embedded in my belief systems and being a part of the change that I wish to see. And so I've always been political with everything that I've done. I've worked on the marriage amendment. I've worked on voter ID. I've done some campaigns for city council. I've done a lot of different work around voter registration and just getting people out to vote in general. I have done some conferences, fashion shows. I've done work around transportation justice. I've done work around housing justice. I've done work around what we would call wage slavery. Working on the 15 Now movement was amazing to me. And I definitely just believe in being a part of that change that I wish to see on all levels. I've done some work around education, and I have spent a little bit of time having a classroom myself, and that has been one of the most rewarding positions that I've ever had in a classroom, and being able to help young individuals mold themselves and grow and to put what they're learning to use. There's nothing more that I love. I currently have been working in the hospitality industry for the last 10 years, so that's what's been paying the bills. Of course, my community work, that stuff never pays the bills. I usually do that for free. So I've been stuck in the hospitality world, which means that I know firsthand how unhealthy people's habits are when it comes to what they put in their mouth. And with that being said, I am a vegan, and I've been a vegan for almost 3 years in October. I am currently unemployed because of COVID-19, and I'm not really expecting to go back to work. I did start an LLC back in December of 2018, but I was still giving a lot of my time and energy to the workplace. And now that everything has happened, I feel like it's a perfect time to push me in the right direction to make it happen for myself, and I am excited about that. So also with my newfound veganism and growing my LLC, I just bought this juicer, and I'm going to be selling juice. I'm so excited.
What? That's amazing. I feel like you really also just explained the Dress for Success way, where we're hit with difficult situations and you turned it into an opportunity. So Goddess, you are just exemplifying that for us. So thanks for sharing that piece of yourself. I appreciate that greatly.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you ladies so much for joining us for this panel. This is wonderful. And I just want to preface these before we dive into the questions. I really want this to be a conversation for us, where we can, feel comfortable, casual. We don't need to go down a line answering these questions. If you don't feel that it pertains to you, or that you don't have an answer to it, that's fine. We'll move through it. But I'd love to hear your perspective. So we'll start with my first question, which is, have you ever felt your identity was threatened in the workforce? And if anybody has an experience in this, I would absolutely love to hear that.
Okay. Well, it's going well. It's just there's like 4 people. So yeah. That's it. Jolene is trying to get in, and I'm trying to get in. So that's what happens. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. That's it.
One second, there's some background noise here. Not sure where it's coming. No worries. Awesome. All right. Goddess, do you have any experience here? Did you want to share anything? Otherwise, I'll move on to the next one.
Yes, actually I do.
Please go ahead.
This was if you ever felt your identity was thrown at the workplace, correct?
Correct.
I worked at McCormick and Schmick's downtown, which is on the corner of pretty much 9th and Nicollet Mall. It's right under the U.S. Bank. It's connected to the U.S. Bank building, the Skyway there. I've been working for that company with this Landry's for over 5 years now. And I transferred from McCormick and Schmick's over to Bubblegum Shrimp Company at the Mall of America because I was afraid of being Black in the workplace. Working downtown Minneapolis at McCormick and Schmick's on the corner of 9th and Nicollet Mall. People come there, they drink. The bar area is very popular. By the way, they definitely have one of the best happy hours in the country. It gets a little bit busy.
Mm-hmm.
Their clientele is the U.S. Bank, and over the years, Black and brown coworkers have talked about hearing the N-word being bounced around at the bar. And right before I left, one of my coworkers had to deal with being called the N-word. I remember right before I left, I don't know if you guys, ladies, whoever's listening, whatever your preferred pronoun is, I don't know if everyone remembers we had a day without immigrants. It was supposed to be one of the bigger, huge, massive demonstrations that everybody was supposed to participate throughout the country, where immigrants pretty much stay home and they do not come out to be a part of the workday. So people who come every single day. And I don't know if anybody knows who's listening, but it is mostly black and brown people that's in that kitchen. It is mostly Latino brothers and sisters that are in those kitchens working their butts off day in, day out. That day that we had our day without immigrants, somebody called into McCormick and Schmick's. It was about 10:30 in the morning before we're even open for business. And a man on the other line, I answered the phone because I was the host. I take all the phone calls, all the reservations. He asked me if we were open. And I was so confused of why he had asked. And I was like, yes, sir, we're open every day. They only close Super Bowl. And he said, thank God, because I'm calling to make sure that none of the places that I'm regular at is gonna close for this immigrant day. If you guys were closed, I would again. And I couldn't believe that somebody would take the time out their day to call the establishment where I worked to make sure that we was not standing in solidarity with the people that made. That was one of the first things that happened to me. That was when I was downtown. But now that I'm at the Mall of America, there's a dress code. And it's definitely not the dress code downtown. You know, when you're going downtown to McCormick and Schmick's, it's a fine dining restaurant. So I was looking really cute. But now that I'm at the mall, I'm not looking so cute. I don't have my black outfit from head to toe. You know, I have on jeans with a t-shirt and a hat that is our uniform. And so, of course, our hat is supposed to be to the front. But as a Black woman and one of the only few Black women in this workspace, I couldn't help but to notice that my white coworkers, they don't always wear their uniform, proper standard protocol. Intentionally one day, I wore my hat while my white coworkers was wearing their hat, which was to the back. And the manager came up to me less than 30 minutes into my shift, and she reminded me that I was out of uniform because my heart was to the back. And that's when I told her that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other coworkers on the clock with me right in front of her had their hat the same way. But she doesn't go say anything to them. She comes and she says something to me. And this has happened plenty times over earrings, over a bracelet, over a necklace, whatever it is. I constantly feel like and it's extremely uncomfortable. What I did like, and this kind of goes into another question, what I like about that situation with Makayla, she didn't argue with me. She didn't go back and forth with me. She instantly left. She went to all 5 of my coworkers. She corrected them, and then she came back to me. She didn't even have to say nothing. She just looked at me, and I think I looked to make sure somebody else was switched it. And I don't want to be hard to deal with, but I definitely want to show people themselves. You know, one last thing pertaining to identity in the workplace, we're at a bad spot where we should know that everybody deserves to be treated with respect. Everybody deserves to be treated with equality. Everybody deserves abundance and prosperity. I must admit, as a Black woman who doesn't feel comfortable walking down the street because I don't know when me or my little brother is going to be the next victim, police terrorism, I have a problem with police terrorism. I had on a button that was a Malcolm X button. He's one of my heroes, and a lot of people, they don't know who Malcolm was. And if you don't know, I strongly encourage you to do some homework. He was an amazing man, and he was about the progression of all people, not just Black and brown people, but all people all over the world, and that's what got him murdered. But I had a Malcolm X button on, and my manager told me that I had to take my button off because he believed that it wasn't a reflection of the company. I also had a button that said, free them all. That's all it said, free, E-M, all. And I was told also that I couldn't have that button on because it was not something that reflect the workplace. The Free 'em All button is a Black Panther Party button. If you know anything about the Black Panther Party, our food stamp program in this country came from the Black Panther Party. They were the ones who had all of these wonderful, amazing ideas in the community that our actual country has taken example after. But I've seen one of my white coworkers wear wristbands say police lives matter too. And as a conscious Black woman, that makes me uncomfortable. I can't wear something that speaks to love and prosperity and abundance for all, but this white person can wear something that says police lives matter too. The last time I checked, police lives are actually not in danger. Me as a Black woman or my baby brother as a Black man, our lives are in danger. So for me, those were like my big ones that I could think of personally, where I think, my identity, as a Black woman, I almost feel like we don't have an identity in the workplace, not here in Minnesota. I find myself constantly bowing down to white women, and holding my tongue and staying in my place, to be honest with you.
I would like to chime in there, if you don't mind. I'm listening. This is Terryann. And tell me, was it Precious? Is that right? Her name, the person?
Yeah.
Goddess. Okay. There we go. I knew it was one of those beautiful names.
Yes.
So Goddess, first of all, I'd like to tell you that I am also a chip of Miss Julian Jackson. So without dating myself, I was Miss 1990 Black St. Paul. So I went and competed nationally under Miss Julian Jackson. And so there's a lot of what I'm hearing you say. And that's why I went back to school to get my degree. And then sitting in my master's degree program, I almost, before George Floyd, the semester before, I didn't even know if I was actually going to graduate because when I discovered something that I guess most people already know, according to some, but there are no Black-owned Fortune 500 companies at all. And 40% of the companies that are in the Fortune 500 are immigrant families. So Jeff Bezos' family actually are Colombian immigrants, if that would give you any indication of why he's probably not so liked by the POTUS. I figure that might have something to do with it since he's consistent in a lot of the things that he does. But with that being said, um, Minnesota is very interesting in how covert or overt, but the way that they nurse their racism. So I don't want you to feel that you are alone, because you need to understand that some of the things that you are experiencing are historical. And so we can be proud to be part of Minnesota in so many ways, because there are a lot of things here in terms of the diversity, especially when it comes to like the food industry and the restaurant industries and all of the opportunities that are in that area. But like you said, that's a heavy lifting, heavy grunt industry that is one of the most competitive industries. And that's why Minnesota invests so heavily into it, because that's part of our tourism. And so they don't have a problem with that, investing money in businesses of color in restaurants. So it's very easy to start a business in Minnesota in a restaurant. Now let's go a little step further. When we talk about the disparities, unfortunately, we have 20% of the people of color in Minnesota that have degrees. We also have what do I want to call it? There's a similarity of who also owns anything in Minnesota, which also happens to be that golden 20% number once again. So that lets us know when we talk about equitable investment and what we have at stake. Many of us have a problem with protesting or any other thing, because if you're a homeowner or now you've gotten yourself involved in a business or any kind of transaction that might involve a mortgage or something where you have a higher institution of lending in your life, you're now going to be governed to be your behavior within the status quo, so that you don't jeopardize your livelihood. So now you mentioned the Mall of America, and I don't know if you already know that the Mall of America opened with basically a president case around a young female and her wearing braids. So they were sued for in their first year of opening around how they perceived women of color. We have a problem with our identity in the workplace, and unfortunately the branding that comes with that. So I want to embrace your hurt and tell you that I feel, listening to you, I feel everything that you're talking about, because I'm living it as well. And with that, the piece that I think, as we delve into how and where we are, the one thing that I'm going to say in terms of how Goddess is speaking is that there seems to almost be as if we have taken steps back. So I feel like I'm in this black and white movie from 1950 something. And I happen to live in Union Park, and I'm the council member of the businesses here. So I represent all the businesses from the river on Lake Street to the Target in the Midway, which, what a fun time to be a representative of all the businesses, since half of them or more are gone. But with that being said, I live across the street from a country club or a golf course. So during the pandemic with the George Floyd uprising, it was so eerie to drive down the parkway and see, number one, people not social distancing, no masks to be seen, sitting around dinner tables at picnic style or cookout, whatever you call it, eating out basically, because they're eating at the house, and they're having a good time. And just feet from them in their own parking lot, private property or whatever, are all these tanks and everything hiding behind the bushes that lead to Lake Street.
Mhm.
And there they were, just comfortably sitting, enjoying their life. And so there's this thing that's happening right now that I think is even going beyond good people or bad people. And just when I'm listening to God is saying these things and I'm feeling these things, that it comes a time that we all need to search ourselves, because any ounce
Mhm.
of privilege or comfortability that you are enjoying at this time,
Mhm.
you need to know it's at the cost of someone else. And it's not enough anymore to just be outraged, because if more white people aren't saying things about the bad behavior of other white people, it doesn't do enough for us brown people to continue to complain, as they say. So I basically want to echo that, Goddess, your hurt is real,
Mhm.
and we hear you. You are not alone. And as part of my release, because the last job I had, I spoke outside of school, and someone took a conversation back to the workplace because I was in awe when I saw a lady, a white lady, take a black lady's hair and run her fingers through her braids. That is unacceptable to me, and I didn't know how to handle it. And I may not have handled it appropriately because I confided in someone else regarding my terror, and it made
Mhm.
it back to the workplace, which then made my life different. So,
Mhm.
how am I working through that pain? I was invited to be a part of a book writing of women who have gotten together collectively and are writing about their hurts and pains in corporate America, because they
Mhm.
want other women of color to know you're not alone, and to hopefully we can sift through these, and that with as we share our stories, that other people who are in positions of change will hold other people accountable. And that's where I see that we can make change. So I think that your first step tonight was huge, because when you talk about the solidarity,
Mhm.
you voicing your hurt brings the solidarity. And Bryn just did a fist up, girl. You begin, the solidarity comes. We got to hurt together. We got to cry together. And sometimes, as my pastor says, it might feel tight, but it's right. We got to
Mhm.
get those uncomfortable places and call out the elephant in the room.
Yeah,
So with that,
absolutely. Totally. Well, and Terryann, what I'm hearing from a lot of the women we serve is that exactly what you're saying. These are not unsimilar experiences that other women of color are having. This is something that they're experiencing across the board. And something that we were talking about previously was what this ends up costing an organization when they're not inclusive. Because as Goddess was saying, she didn't feel safe, so she left this company. You know what I mean? When we're talking about what that means for an organization, not just for beyond the aspect of how horrible it feels as an individual and as a human, but as an employer, you're losing fantastic employees because you're not inclusive, and that there's a cost behind that too, right?
Anna, and with that being said, here's the deal. We
Yeah.
need to really look at the bigger picture. So, and I feel, as a
Mhm.
person who worked, number one, under James Meredith for my bachelor's degree, and if for anyone who doesn't know who James Meredith is, he integrated Ole Miss in 1965 and made it possible for all people of color to go to any institution they want to for a higher educational degree. So I worked under him. I've worked under him now for the last 20 years, and he also happens to be an extended member of my family. So I can honestly say that I sit here as a recipient of that hard work to be able to tell you what the problem is. And it's called white supremacy. We have to break the system of the good old boys system. Why do I say that? If you have not seen what is going on in our country right now, that we could have one person come into what we had as a good faith system and choose not to participate and just totally change our whole nation as we're moving, as in the course that we were moving in. I really want to stay non-political because I really just want to talk about what's happening and not about the person. So with that being said, we have been demonstrated right in front of our faces that there are rules that only apply for some. And so with that being said, when we're talking about companies, especially in Minnesota, does the company's bottom line really say, I'm more invested in how much money I'm making and the viability of my company, or does the company more invested in their good old boy system that keeps their doors open for those who their base? And why do I say that? When we look at the not 20% piece, and how the comparison between, or the relationship between, property ownership and higher education for those of color. But now let's look at when we get into those jobs. Minnesota has been noted to be one of the states that has whites that have only high school degrees, and they manage many people of color with bachelor's, master's, and even PhDs. So now if a company was really looking at investing in their bottom line, wouldn't they want to make sure they had the most qualified people in all of their hierarchy of positions? Or do we look for those ones of great talent that we bring in, and then we browbeat them to death, we steal all their creativity, and then that company still makes their money, even though they've chased off some good talent because of talent acquisition, but yet we don't deal with the real issues at hand. And those are the issues of what are their HR policies and how are they really looking at their core values of their company, and do they have a history that is based in systemic racism, which means that when you go into their office settings, and this was kind of a joke, but not really, would a sniper happen to be greeted by most people of non-color first, which means all the people of color in the back in the office setting? Would it mean that when you come in, you would mistake people of color as maybe maintenance or menial jobs in that corporation because it's not expected that you would see someone of color? Or do you have that one or two that just make it friendly enough that everyone feels comfortable? So these are some of the issues, like you're saying, that I feel that when we're talking about, even now, as I feel like the time that we're in now, because we're talking about these issues and because we are in a period of being able to rebuild, I feel like our time has forced us to a table that we have no more excuses to not pull out the chairs for everyone. The table is broken. There's only one or two chairs. We got to share now, figure out who's got the resources to rebuild. So I feel like if we can get past that whole piece of the white supremacy, and we just got to call it what it is. It feels uncomfortable. It really does. But that's what it is. And if we can say it, we've gotten rid of the Confederate flag. We're looking at rebuilding Minnesota's flag. We're under redesign with that. These images are the beginning of breaking down the systemic racism. And now we're able to talk about how do we keep that talent. Keeping the talent means opening up the doors for more of our execs to have these talks and be able to do some real kumbaya work.
Yeah. Thank you for lifting it up and kind of bringing that bigger picture of white supremacy into it, because I know that that's a hard one for people to take, and I appreciate you kind of bringing me into that perspective of it. So thank you so much, because I know that, yes, I just want to say thank you for doing that.
May I speak to that, Anna?
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, is that so? When when both Goddess and Terryann were speaking, something came to mind that is really exciting for me, and I think that it should be exciting for Dress for Success Twin Cities. So when we did, right following George Floyd's murder at Dress for Success, we did a panel discussion that was, and I don't remember what it was called, but it was really trying to speak to some of the Black and brown pain. And the thing that I spoke to you about, Anna, with this earlier, was that through my discussion with Megan before that panel, it really helped pull me out of my white privilege, though, even though I knew logically that I had all this white privilege and whatever. It was the Dress for Success, speaking with Megan about getting on the panel, and then the panel itself that helped kind of pull me even more out of it. So what I'm saying is that through this horrible, all these multiple crises, the thing that has happened is that I am now more able to see my continued privilege and to say that it's not okay, and to, in my workplace, openly say to my higher ups, what are we doing to combat this? How are we, as a woman-owned, woman-driven company, how can we also continue to embrace more and more of our Black and brown, populations, of our, not, gay, bi, trans, all those communities. How can I, as a white woman, do what I can to say, I stand with you, I support you, I will fight your fight with you. And I think that really what is important to me is if I didn't have a connection with Dress for Success, I would not have had that space for those conversations to get me used to the words, to allow me to feel empowered to use them in the right times and places.
Thank you for sharing that, Bryn. I really appreciate that. And that's what this panel is all about too, you know. We're trying to get everybody on board and really amplify these different experiences. So Goddess, I appreciate you sharing, and Terryann, I appreciate you sharing and talking to Goddess's experiences, because it's those negative experiences that help us understand that change needs to happen. I think especially for those who haven't experienced those kind of situations before.
Anna, I also want to add something too. Since we are talking about the pain, one of the pieces that I really need to add, and it's only in response to some of the things I've heard on TV. So I try to listen to a lot of different contrasting stories and perspectives. And so one of the things that has really seemed to be a confusing factor for a lot of our people of non-color, and I don't want to say, I just use non-color because I don't know, white is not always appropriate either. But it seems that even though we have a very good grasp of history in America, in the United States of America, let me say that right, we seem to have lost the grasp of the timeline of oppression. And so I hear over and over about how slavery was a long time ago and how people should feel this way because my parents didn't do this, or I don't know anything about this, or we weren't the ones that did this. But here's the deal. It really wasn't that long ago for many of people of color in our experience and our culture and our heritage. So I have a cousin who just turned 100 years old in April. She's still here and she's got all her wits. I come from a background that our culture, we don't know where our Black culture is. So my culture, I found, is very steeped in a European Jewish culture. And so that makes our family not always fit into the norms of culture. So what I'm saying is our timelines are not monolithic. Our experiences as people of color, because of our slavery pasts and our multicultural backgrounds, are so different that even categorizing people with the census and all of those things, because of the African American experience, we don't have our experience is so diverse and so different from any other culture because we don't have our culture in America is church. We are the only group of people that legally can claim church as our culture. When you think about that, our civil rights movement is all around our church. The SNCC movement for education was all about them building people and from the north, bringing them to the south. And where did we organize? In our church buildings. So when we are talking about the hurt and the pain and the disconnects of our community, these are not things that happened 60 years ago, 100 years ago, but it's a continual, perpetual cycle of hurts that are like a scab that just keeps getting ripped off every day. And so when God has talked about those words, the one thing I wanted to tell her that we talked about, because I just recently had a talk with my mother, and she couldn't believe in the movie Harriet that they kept using the F word. And she says, I think this was inaccurate. There was no way that this word was being used like that. And I said, well, yeah, Mom, that word came out in the 1500s. I said, so what you need to understand, and that's what the power of language is today, is that when you hear those words in the workplace, they're designed to strip, they're designed to take, they're designed to diminish, they're designed to ruin your day. And as much as you would say, oh, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, even like somebody calling us the B word, we could act like we blew it off, it rolled off our back. But all that day, it's kind of like a little crow back there going, I can't believe someone called me that. Or, that somebody called me that. Or, wow, I had a good day if they wouldn't have called me that. It's always going to be kind of that little, just that little, So that's kind of how this is, but a little bit deeper, if you know what I mean. And so I just wanted to say, that whole monolithic and the whole timeline piece is really something I think that goes into how we look at, like what Bryn said when she talked about the privilege piece and being self-aware, is trying to really embrace and maybe getting into more of the historical pieces as God has talked about with Malcolm X and some of the other things.
Yeah.
And
thank you for highlighting that.
Yes, I was going to say too, also, if the Black Panther Party had been able to leave their notes, they also had an awesome testing process that they initiated through the college campus for sickle cell anemia. Yeah.
I'm learning something new every day, right? Isn't that what life is all about? Thank you for sharing that. I had no idea. That's great. Well, we have a little less than 10 minutes, so this has been fantastic. I'm gonna move on to another question. I think it's really great that we started the way we did. I also, as I said in the beginning, I want to try and remember that there are good experiences in the workplace. So I'd love if anybody would like to, Theresa, maybe since we haven't had a chance to hear from you, have you ever had a positive experience with a manager that you'd want to share with us?
Yeah, definitely. Although it's been a while. I mean, I've had other ones too, but this one is probably the most positive experience I had. My manager had recognized my skills and experience when she hired me, and part of my job was as a recovery analyst, was to find overpayments that we made in the insurance, paying specifically with Medicaid. And it was my first experience working with Medicaid, so I learned as much as I could as far as what the different. I learned to read the legal the Medicaid, their different legislative notes and laws and statutes and everything. And once I got used to that, I started finding all these different things that we were not, we weren't even looking at. And so she allowed me to use that knowledge and just start creating my own, you know, pulling my own reports and finding all these areas of deficiency where we were not, where we were paying things that we shouldn't have. And yeah, so I ended up saving, like, I think the time that I was there, I was able to actually bring in, like, recover the overpayments of over $10 million.
Nice.
So that was huge when I worked
Wow,
for Youth
that's
Care
pretty
at the time. So
big.
yeah. So, and I loved it. I loved doing that.
Wow. Yeah, I think that that experience for me just goes to show um, how being, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, what happened? What happened? Okay.
Sorry, I think my screen froze. I apologize if I was speaking over you, Teresa.
No, that's fine. Something happened on my end too, but I got back. I'm back.
No worries. No worries. I think your experience really highlights for me, you know, having a manager that it has confidence in you and respects you. It
Yes.
makes you want to do the work and you know what I mean, and put in the
Mhm.
effort. So
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you were able to. That's an incredible accomplishment, by the way.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you're able to have that experience. That's
Yeah.
really
Thank you.
fantastic. So my next question I want to ask is, and this is more related to the HR aspect of employment, but have you ever been asked an interview question that you felt didn't represent you or made you feel uncomfortable? Anybody, let me know if you want to chime in.
Well, I had somebody ask me what is the lowest amount I would ever, the lowest amount I would ever accept, and that's the amount that they offered me when they offered me the job. Although it was more than what I had been making, it was consultative work. So a consultants, you know, usually earn more money than that. And I had to ask her, said, and it was a woman. That's the other thing too. I mean, it would seem more like a male type, you know, thing to do, but a woman, you know, and I said, I had no idea that you were going to use that and offer me that. Why would you offer me the lowest amount? You know, so I mean, they did end up giving me a little bit more, but you know, but they still, I mean, it was my first job from being unemployed, and you know, it's behind me, but yeah, that was, and I can't get over that, you know. It's no surprise that she's no longer doing that job, but I don't know what reason that is, but I like to think that maybe they found out that she asked me that question and hired me at that amount. But I know that's not what happened. But.
Yeah, that would be very unsettling. And it's also very degrading in my perspective
Yeah.
to say, let me give you what you are least worth.
Mm-hmm.
That. Bryn or Goddess, did you want to chime in about an interview question that you felt didn't represent you or made you uncomfortable? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I may have just lost Goddess because my phone may have died. That was the thing that just happened. I wasn't paying attention. Bryn, did you have anything you want to share while I give her a call back?
You know, I really don't. I think, I mean, the only thing that I could touch on is, you know, obviously I'm a felon. And, you know, when I came to Minnesota, you know, I did kind of technically have a felony, but it wasn't one that showed up. That doesn't probably make any sense to any non-felons, but anyway, you know, it's a question that really puts you in a position, and there's a reason that Ban the Box happened, because it's a position that it is a question that put you in a position where whether you answered it truthfully would put you in a position to not gain employment. But if you answered untruthfully, that could also, you know, depending on whether they checked or not. And so, you know, put people in a precarious position. So that's the only thing that I could personally speak to right now.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that. I know that just from experiences you shared with me, I know that's a issue that you face. So I'll ask Goddess to share her. Hey Goddess, my phone died. I apologize. So you were talking about the one question that you have experienced that made you feel uncomfortable or felt that didn't represent you.
It was kind of like how Terryann was talking about earlier, how people just kind of like you off, you know, before you get your foot in the door. I remember just being on public transportation and being at the interview. I lived in one city, the area was in a different city, and they had asked me like what my address was, like community that I lived in. Like, did I have a reliable transportation source? What was going to be a reliable transportation source? And I just feel like as an adult, that's something that an adult deciphers. You know what I'm saying? I just kind of felt like they were trying to write me off because I wasn't a part of that neighborhood.
I hear what you're saying. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. So as we have crossed the 8 o'clock mark, I think we'll probably leave the questions. Maybe we'll have a second panel, guys, and get to the rest of the questions. But I want to respect everybody's time and respect your time too. And thank you all so much for joining me today and having these conversations, whether they, you know, they make you uncomfortable or whether they're hard. I appreciate you being here and being your authentic self with me, because this is how we are going to create change and move forward. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you, Terryann, for helping moderate this conversation. Bryn, Theresa, Goddess, thank you so much for joining our panel today. I am beyond grateful. Thank you.
Thank
And is
you.
it possible to get
Thanks
Terryann's
for having
number? I
me.
actually
Thank you
asked
all.
somebody else from a couple months ago.
Ooh, I'm sure I can connect you guys.
Okay, please.
I have a website also, www.nashinspired.com. So that's what I live to do, is inspire others. And so, like I said, everyone, just in closing, know that a lot of it looks like destruction around us right now, especially if you live in Minneapolis. I'm having withdrawals just driving through there, but I'm hopeful as a community organizer. How I got into this field was after Katrina. So I know that New Orleans is still there, and we'll get this too. And we're wonderful mindset people, and we've got some more wonderful people that come to be part of our communities in recent years. So now it's time to bring our other people to the table. The new people have come over the years, especially since the 80s. And let's rebuild our Twin Cities. And we can do it all together. So I just want to say that stay hopeful.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Terryann. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
So for all of our attendees, I'm going to say goodbye to all of our lovely people and take them off of our stream. Toodaloo. To all of our attendees, I just want to, first of all, thank you for taking the time to share your evening with us. And because what we want to do here at Dress for Success is truly to create change, and we know that that can't happen overnight. And although listening and hearing these experiences are incredibly important, we know that there's also work that needs to be done. So we are truly looking to create change in the world of employment. And what that means is working with our corporate partners and helping them ensure that their hiring practice is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. And what we want to do is make it easier for you to be able to feel like you can make a difference too. So we have different resources on what it means to be anti-racist, how to be an ally, different resources for people of color who are volunteers and donors. So we will send that in an email follow-up to ensure that we are not only hearing others' experiences, but also taking action, looking inward, and creating change for a more positive future. So thank you to everybody who joined us today. We greatly appreciate it. And we will talk to you next time.